So I'm waiting on the August National Restaurant Report Index, which again, these are coming out super late. Don't know why. Whoever is doing the work over there needs to hurry up so I can analyze restaurant industry stats. But they actually had a interesting research report come out on September 18th that I thought kind of bucks the trend on some of the topics, at least I've been talking about in the show. So if I would have told you that restaurants are going to simpler menus and looking for like simpler ingredients, and that leads to like because people have less buying power, would you have agreed with that statement?
I think it depends on the restaurant, but overall, I think we've seen the opposite happen, where you give people too many choices and too much
Mhm.
like over and above spieling, and it kind of like makes people feel this paradox of choice problem.
And that's kind of where I was at. And this new report kind of has changed my mind. And so basically it says higher income households are driving restaurant sales. So the number of households with income above $100,000 jumped by 5 million during the last 2 years. Higher income households are critical drivers of growth in the restaurant industry, and the good news is that these households surged to new highs during the last 2 years. There are 57.7 million households with annual income of $100,000 or more in 2024. That represented an increase of 5 million households from 2022, when the households with an income of $100,000 or more numbered 52.7 million, and this is adjusted for inflation. The recent upward trend is important because the number of higher income households declined during the pandemic. They reached a peak of 53.8 million in 2019, and then they fell to 52.7 million in 2022. They go on to say that higher income households also make up a larger share of total households than they ever have, with income of above $100,000. In comparison, 40.7 million households with annual income below $50,000 represented 30% of all households in 2024, while 36.5 million households in the 50 to 99,000 range made up 27%. And so, why is this important? It says here that basically, if you, they have a graph which I can put up, but it basically says that the positive trend in higher income households continues. It bodes well for restaurant sales growth in the years ahead. And they have a like pie chart here, which is on the screen now, and the share of total restaurant spending by household income levels. And it has this big part here, this big giant blue part, and that's 100,000 to basically $200,000 in income of 35% of the total restaurant sales. So, what does this mean? For me, it's means that obviously people are willing to spend. It makes sense that if the more money you have, the more money you spend out to eat. But the fact that, and we've had this conversation, why are restaurant operators banking on more? There was a report last month that I covered where, although foot traffic was down, sales were actually up. And was this sign of inflation? Was this a sign of costs going up, so therefore prices are up? And all of that is yes, but where I saw that as maybe a negative and a stressor on the industry, it actually seems to be a positive because as you're seeing, more and more high income households are basically taking part in dining out. Obviously, from a society's perspective, my worry is that the everyday person gets priced out more and more from even the luxury of going out to eat while higher income households come in. But for a purely business perspective, higher income households are now seen as what's driving the restaurant industry sales. And while that has been the case, it seems to be even more so now going into 2025. So, in a world where the economy feels really fraught and like dangerous, in a world where things are like much more expensive or feel much more expensive at least, and inflation is high, people are still finding the means to go out to eat, and higher income people are especially finding the means, and they're actually what's boosting the restaurant economy right now. So, your thoughts?
I just did a quick search to see what's the like of that. If you're making $100,000, what percentage of that goes towards food every year?
Hmm.
And depending on which source you kind of take the information from, it's about 10%. So it's about somewhere like $10,000 to $12,000 a year if you're one of these high income earners. And I think that's an interesting way for business owners to kind of like frame this information, which is like these people are going to spend $12,000 a year, whether it's at your business or not. Like that, they're
Hmm.
going to spend the money. The way that one of these reports broke it down is that half of that goes to dining out and half of that goes to eating at home, which I think might also be kind of like a skew in what we're seeing on people who aren't in this income bracket. where maybe they might eat at home a little bit more, or the percentage of their income that actually goes towards eating out might be a little bit different. And so I think that's an interesting thing where you're thinking about pricing, you're thinking about regularity, you're thinking about people coming back and returning. I think that's like such a no-brainer. There's a donut place by us that my son really, really loves right now. And it's like, we don't have it every single weekend, but I kind of like ran the numbers last month and I was thinking about like, if this was a subscription to this donut place, how much, like from a yearly perspective, am I paying this donut restaurant? Because my wife is like loving the donuts right now. And, my son just gets so excited of like the experience to go to this place. And so I think that that's an interesting way for people to approach some of this stuff is the people who have the disposable income to spend. Why shouldn't they come to your place? And more importantly, why shouldn't they return over and over and over again? Because clearly we're seeing like the total addressable market of these people increasing in size. And so all of this, I think, is like in the doom and gloom as we cover the negative sides of some of these economic realities. There's also some of this that could be positive for you and your business. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's all I had on that one.